Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I want to talk about Firebase security rules. Inside of your Firebase console, go into your Firestore database. Inside of this database, you'll notice that you have a rules tab. When you click this rules tab, your version of your rules may look different from my version. In fact, you will see inside of your version, most likely this list of original rules where every single document is readable and writable. So here, let's discuss how these rules work and the format. First off, looking at the left-hand side, you will notice that the history is being tracked of all of the changes between how the rules have been modified. My rule set is going to be different from your rule set because students may potentially accidentally download my actual configuration that allows their application to access my version of this Firebase database. So as a result, I have to make it very strict. I essentially only allow users to get users or read and write to them, but I do not allow them to update it unless that is their own student account. As for matching, I match every document that I allowed anyone to read, just in case, once again, you need to read from my database. But other than that, I do not allow any users to create or to write to this database. But let me go through these rules in a very simple way. Essentially, from the top level, rules are designed to be a series of match statements. So here, if you look inside, we're in rules version 2. I don't know if in the future Firebase will update to a newer version of the rules, but right now, the rules is version 2. The service is for Cloud Firestore, which is the database that we're running. This statement, matches a path to a series of documents. So of course, it starts with match databases and then the general database. So these angular brackets designate that any database inside of the database, and then the following documents are going to abide by the following rules. Now, to begin, we want only users to be able to access their own user profile, and we want users only to be able to modify their own profile. So we're going to match to that database, which is our users database. So we'll say /users and then /, and in here, you can isolate down to the actual user ID by saying user ID like so. Firebase knows that when you add this identifier ID, it will cast that variable so that it will know that if you're trying to access a specific user document by the ID, well, now you can only access it inside based on these rules. So we can say that we'll allow anybody to read, we'll allow anybody to get, and we'll allow people to create. So creating, reading, getting, no problem. But only you're allowed to write to it, as in you're allowed to update it, if the request, which is a special keyword inside of these rules, meaning that with every request that gets sent to Firebase, there's a couple things on this special keyword that comes with the request. I'm going to say .auth, meaning that this user's authenticated, and only if they're authenticated. So I'm going to say that if this auth does not equal null, only if they're authenticated, and the request.auths.uid, meaning that their authentication identifier is equal to the user ID. Only if these are true can the user actually write to this user ID. Now, as far as the categories go, we can make a new line, and I can say match/categories, which is the name of our categories database in Firestore. And now if I do a wildcard, meaning that I access any individual category document. Remember, you cannot target collections. You can only target documents. You have to write this /. You're not allowed to just put this. You have to do either with an ID or with just the base variable, essentially, through doing this wildcard. Here, I'm going to allow reading only because I don't want anybody to be able to add categories, modify categories, or anything like that. I can allow myself to write by saying allow write if, once again, request.auth does not equal null. And I can say request.auth.uid equals, And then I can paste in here the UID for my specific user. If I can find my user that I want to be allowed to actually make write requests, I would just paste that in there. But I'm not going to put that here in case anybody sees it. So I can just say allow read. Now, one more thing I want to mention. If in the future I were to add additional properties or additional tables into my database, I may forget to update the rules here. And I want to match everything else that does get added. So to do that, I'm just going to say match slash and then document equals and then 2 wildcards. This is enough to tell Firebase, hey, I want to match every other document inside that has not already had rules defined for it above as we see. And then here, I'm just going to allow read for all of those ones. And this is my updated rules. I can publish these, and now my Firebase is more secure. I'm going to link for you additional documentation to these rules. You can actually get pretty hairy with them, but for our application, it's pretty simple. There's not that much to learn about it. But if you really wanted to get really verbose with it, you definitely can. You can even try and implement a cart feature where we store the cart inside of Firestore. And remember, only the user who owns that cart should be allowed to access it. If you wanted to access it, how would you do so? Again, you may have to look through the docs to figure out how to implement that feature, but it would be an interesting feature to try out. So that's it for Firebase rules. I'll see you in the next video.